You don't see their logos on billboards. You don't buy their products. Most Americans couldn't name a single one of them. But they decide who gets a mortgage, who keeps a job, and sometimes who runs for office. They don't govern countries. They govern capital. And in the modern world, that's the same thing. Welcome to Finlore, where we expose the invisible empires behind the money you think you own. Every empire in history had a signature. Rome had legions. Britain had ships. And America has hedge funds. But here's the twist. They don't wave flags or hold territory. They control leverage. In the early days of Wall Street, hedge funds were supposed to be small, nimble, and cautious. Pools of private wealth meant to hedge risk. Today, they're trillion-dollar war machines powered by borrowed money, political access, and supercomputers that can predict your next move before you make it. Their names sound harmless: Citadel, Bridgewater, Millennium, Elliott Management, but their reach stretches from your paycheck to the price of your rent. They're not just investors, they're architects of the economy itself. The evolution of power. It all began as a clever idea in the 1950s, a way to protect investments from market swings. But over time, protection turned into domination. When financial deregulation swept through the 1980s, hedge funds saw their opening. Banks had rules. Hedge funds didn't. Regulators watched balance sheets. Hedge funds operated in the shadows. They borrowed $10 for every dollar they owned. They bet on currencies, oil, housing, even entire nations. And because they weren't banks, no one really stopped them. By the time the 1990s ended, hedge funds weren't just trading markets. They were the markets. When they moved, currencies trembled. When they pulled back, countries crashed. A new type of empire. Empires used to conquer with armies. Now they conquer with spreadsheets. Think about your home. After the 2008 crash, millions of Americans lost theirs. But hedge funds saw opportunity in disaster. While families packed boxes, hedge funds bought entire neighborhoods, cash. They turned foreclosed homes into rental empires. And in just a few years, Wall Street became the nation's biggest landlord. Today, more than 1 in 5 homes in some cities is owned not by a family, not by a local business, but a financial firm headquartered thousands of miles away. If you rent, your landlord might not even be human. It could be an algorithm. Rent due dates, late fees, and price hikes all determined by data, not empathy. That's not a glitch in capitalism. That's the design. The shadow government of money. Most people think Washington runs America, but in truth, it's the other way around. When hedge funds control trillions in assets, they don't need to lobby for influence. They are the influence. They hire ex-Treasury secretaries and former senators. They fund both political parties. They host private policy retreats where lawmakers listen more carefully than they do in Congress. This revolving door between government and finance ensures that the rules are always written in pencil, and the eraser sits on Wall Street. One executive leaves the SEC and joins a hedge fund the next month. A regulator retires and suddenly advises the same firms they used to monitor. It's not illegal, it's just efficient. The result: hedge funds no longer adapt to policy, policy adapts to them. The mechanics of control. Let's strip away the jargon. Here's how they do it. Hedge funds borrow massive amounts of money, what they call leverage. They use that leverage to buy everything, from companies to crops to government bonds. When they succeed, they make billions. When they fail, the system saves them. Because they've become too interconnected to let fall. Too many pensions, banks, and governments rely on their success. So the logic flips. Risk isn't punished anymore, it's rewarded. And that's the most dangerous incentive ever created. Every time they gamble, the winnings are private, but the losses are public. Taxpayers foot the bill, confidence erodes, and the cycle begins again. That's not capitalism, that's financial feudalism. The data wars. In the 21st century, power doesn't come from guns or gold, it comes from information. Hedge funds now operate more like intelligence agencies than investors. They track oil tankers from space.
They analyze credit card data, weather patterns, even search trends. They use artificial intelligence to anticipate how millions of people will act before those people even know it themselves. Every grocery purchase, every tweet, every flight, all become part of a global prediction engine designed to profit off your next decision. This is no longer about markets, it's about surveillance. Financial surveillance so deep it makes governments look slow. And when you know the future, even a few seconds ahead of everyone else, you don't compete, you control.
The political algorithm. In a democracy, money is supposed to serve people, but in modern America, people serve money. Hedge funds discovered a truth politicians try to ignore. If you control capital flows, you control behavior. Want to stop rent control? Move your money. Don't like a tax? Shift your assets offshore. Markets will do what Congress can't. Discipline the system. It's not a conspiracy. It's structure. The laws of liquidity have replaced the laws of the land. And every time voters demand change, capital quietly decides if that change is affordable. The myth of the villain. Here's the irony. Hedge funds don't see themselves as villains. In their view, they're the realists. They'll tell you they provide liquidity, efficiency, and innovation. And in many ways, they do. They find mispriced assets, expose weak companies, and speed up global trade. But history doesn't ask whether an empire was efficient. It asks whether it was sustainable. Because every system that centralizes power, financial, political, or digital, eventually meets the same fate: imbalance. Rome fell when its debts outgrew its armies. Venice fell when trade became monopolized. The East India Company fell when it forgot the difference between profit and rule. The question is, how long until this empire learns that lesson? The quiet dependency. Here's the part that hits home. You're part of the system, whether you like it or not. Your pension fund? It's probably invested in hedge funds. Your city's budget? Tied to returns from Wall Street portfolios. Even your grocery bills, shaped by commodity trades made in offices you'll never see. The entire economy is wired into their network. If they stopped tomorrow, credit would freeze, markets would collapse, and governments would panic. They've made themselves indispensable, and that's the purest form of control. The hidden logic of leverage. There's a phrase on Wall Street: leverage is the key to wealth. But leverage is also the key to collapse. It's like stretching a rubber band. The tighter you pull, the more power you store, until it snaps. Right now, hedge funds hold trillions in borrowed money, layered through loans, derivatives, and private credit markets larger than entire countries. They're the lenders of last resort, the landlords of Middle America, the shadow bankers of the world. And every dollar of borrowed power is another ounce of pressure on the system. The next crisis won't look like 2008. It'll look like the moment confidence itself fails. When the illusion of control vanishes and everyone realizes the emperor of capital never had clothes. The new age of control. In the end, hedge funds are not the disease. They're the symptom of a world that values speed over stability, efficiency over empathy, profit over principle. They've mastered the art of making money from both victory and collapse. When markets rise, they profit. When markets fall, they profit again. They've turned crisis into an asset class. But history has a way of resetting itself. Empires built on leverage don't fall from attack. They fall from exhaustion. When the people who feed the system can no longer afford to keep it alive. And when that moment comes, it won't be a crash. It'll be a correction of power, of purpose, of perspective. So the next time you wonder who really runs America, don't look to the White House.
Look to the data centers in Greenwich, the glass towers in Manhattan, the quiet boardrooms where risk isn't measured in dollars, but in dominance. Empires no longer need armies to rule. They just need algorithms. And as long as we confuse wealth with wisdom, the empire of hedge funds will remain invisible, invincible, and in charge. Because the truest form of control is the one that doesn't need permission. If this opened your eyes, subscribe, because history doesn't hide. It whispers. And it's whispering now.